What is this, another guy doing a conversion van? How many of these people are out there? Well, I'm another one. So I want to quickly explain why we're using the Promaster. Reason number one, I already owned it. I've been using the Promaster for work for the last 2 years, and it's been a great vehicle. You know, never had any problems, never broke down. And we bought it, actually, it was a repo. So somebody actually didn't do the payments, and it got taken from them. And then I went to a dealer and we bought it from the dealer. And yeah, so that's how we ended up with the van. Also, that's how I ended up with the blue van. I didn't really want a blue van. I wanted a white one because I knew that they're gonna bake in the sun in the summer and it's gonna get way too hot. I didn't think of making a camper yet, but I knew that if I ever would, I'd have to do something about the color. Because the insulation alone is not enough to cool this thing down in the summer. It just burns. So I guess I had to become a rapper. Well, a vehicle rapper. So I used this, thank God, for this stuff here. Is a 3M control tack. That's like the best vehicle wrap I think you can get. It has these little beads on it, so you can peel the back off, you stick it on the vehicle, it's like a static cling, but you can still reposition it. It won't really stick until you apply pressure, right? And then you work your air bubbles out and all this stuff, and then to really make it here, you use a heat gun, and then it's done. So it's not easy. It's definitely something I don't want to do again, but I guess I'm a rapper now. Front wheel drive for us was a must.
Okay, if you live in the Northeast, oh, okay. It's November, we got snow. I don't think you have many choices, but it's either you're a high roller and get a 4x4 Sprinter, which that's not gonna happen, or you gotta get a Promaster for us. Front wheel drive. The Fort was kind of out of the question. Our driveway goes up a hill, so I know. So front wheel drive it is. You can pull this out.
So since I've already used it for 2 years in the winter here, this vehicle's been great. Never gotten stuck anywhere. It's been an awful lot of talking, not enough working. So let's go start working on the van. All right, we got a propane RV furnace here, gas heater basically. So since we're building a platform bed just below the window, I want to insulate these walls next, get this all like tidied up, airtight as possible, just the way I did the ceiling. But before I start insulating, I want to figure out my holes for the air intake and the combustion air so that I can have this furnace vented properly. There's a little issue I have to deal with because every van, or at least the Dodge Promaster, where I want to put it, there's no room above this because it's a platform bed, so I can't really fit this anywhere in here. Like, I don't want to, you know, you don't want to cut through these, you know, support structures. There's one spot where this can fit, but I have to make the hole has to be as high as possible so that this will actually be overlapping on the outside. Let me show you the outside quick, what I'm dealing with here. So I want to make sure that I am basically, this is the divot on the inside, that I'm not down here with my hole, that I'm just above that. So you guys see that? So that is, I think, easier to do now before insulating this section and plywooding, because I don't see, once it's covered with wood, I don't see how high I can drill. So I'm gonna drill the holes out and build a platform for this furnace now, to have it in the right position. And then once we have that, we can actually hook it up. So the plan is to have actually dry outside air in the winter as an intake. So we're gonna heat up dry outside air. We're gonna combat condensation. We want this to be a dry, warm space, and not have like these dripping windows. I mean, you've been there, done that probably. When you just use a propane regular heater and you heat inside air, it's just condensation goes crazy in the winter. So we're gonna take outside air, cold, dry outside air, and heat it, and then it'll blow hot air into the cabin. We're using these flapper valves. Every car has these valves, both sides usually. They're basically in the car. Every car has them because if you want to close a door and all the windows are shut, there's no place for the air to go. So they have these little flapper valves, right? So watch this. See, they flap open. So the air just puffs out, and they usually are located right here in the fender. Every car. So we're gonna steal one of those flappers, and we're gonna basically have, well, not this guy, but we're gonna have our intake, and then we're gonna run a air duct to the furnace, and that's how we're gonna suck in the air that we're gonna heat from the outside. So we're getting it to dry out in here and not be also condensation-y, if that is a word. So after finding my first, hole position, I basically marked the diameter of the big hole, blue taped it off so I don't scratch my van. You want to use a thin sheet metal cutting blade in your jigsaw so that it doesn't rip out too much material at a time, nice and smooth. Have it all blue taped off so you don't scratch the outside of the van. Take your time, wear one of these, and work your way around. Every time you cut holes into the outside of the vehicle, I'm worried about rust. So, first of all, get rid of all those metal flakes, and then I usually just spray paint it from the outside, inside, just trying to get paint on all the surfaces. The next thing was to silicone our exhaust intake piece on the exterior. I used some stainless steel screws to attach it because it didn't come with any screws. Yeah, that's what it looks like basically from the outside, and just, it's pipage on the inside. Alright, so what I want to do here is, since we're sleeping side to side, so not the long way, I'm 5'9", 6 feet from beam to beam, I want to get an extra inch out of this whole thing. So we're not gonna put the double insulation in here. We're only gonna get with the R 7.5, 7.5 here. Down here we doubled it up. So yeah, we're gluing on these furring strips. By we, I mean me. And the stuff's really good. It's fast grab stuff. Yeah, that's the stuff you want to get. Fast grab. Really does the job well. What? It's crazy. And then that's going to be our nailer, our screw surface for the Luan later on, which is the wall. So it turns out I'm actually figured out a way how to not trim over my screws. So I'm just basically gluing in one frame right here first, and then I'm gonna make a nice second piece over it that's going to be basically visible, the core of the plywood, and then we're gonna So for the final pieces, I kind of broke it up into corners and little filler strips. It was just really hard because the window is not really super straight as far as the edges goes, because it has a little, because it follows the contour of the van, which is kind of a, you know, it's not flat, so it's got a curve to it. So making it into corner pieces and straight pieces was just easier for me to get a tight fit against the window, so I don't have much of a gap. And then I have a really good friend, his name's Bondo, and you know, Bondo and me, we're gonna, you know, fill all the little holes in the end here. It's a cold, rainy November day, and I want to foam out this thing, and 38 degrees. It's too cold to foam. So I got the electric heater in here. I got it up to, what is this, 61 degrees now in here. So pretty much warm enough to foam this thing out, because if it's too cold, the foam just won't expand. It'll just sit there like a liquid. It'll be useless. But I wanted to show you guys what I ended up doing with this. Remember that flapper valve for my intake for the heater? So I did, this is actually both of those flapper valves. I ended up cutting this off. This was right here, this flapper valve. So I just used a Dremel and I cut it off, basically. And so this is the back of my fender, and you can feel the air kind of going in. So we'll leave that open, and that'll be the intake for our hot air furnace, our heater eventually. And then on this side, these pieces are basically, they're glued into place. And then we're gonna foam these in place and brace it with some sticks going across, basically. I ended up only doing the R7.5 foam board up top, and at the bottom we ended up doing 2 layers. I got the R5 and then the 7.5, and I'm gonna foam these in place, and that actually lines up perfectly with this, so that my bottom section of the wall will be insulated a little better than the top, because I want to not lose that little extra space here. It's 1.5 inch difference, so 1.5 inch on this side and then 1.5 inch on that side. That'll give me well, 3 inches of extra headroom, so I can sleep without being all squished, because we're gonna be sleeping side to side, not the long way. I'm 5'9", so you know, easily works that way. Yeah. Alright, so everything's cured. The foam sat for a couple of days. I haven't had any time to go back to it. I like to use one of these Japanese flexi saws, whatever you call them. And then since I have these wood furring strips, I can just basically go right along the strips, and that'll come right off pretty easy. All right, guys, this is basically it for this week. I got the insulation up. Next week, we're gonna do vapor barrier, Luan, basically plywood, and maybe we'll get to the platform. Okay, gonna post on this channel once a week, update you guys on the progress of the van, and I'm not really planning much of this out, so if I'm gonna run into a problem, I'm gonna tell you about the problem, and I'm not necessarily, you know, I don't have a blueprint or anything, I'm just kind of winging it. I have some sort of a clue, but you know, we'll figure it out together, I guess, or not. We'll see. I don't want to rush through this. I'm going to take my time. You know, if there's a little detail that I really, really want and it's going to take some time, I'm going to go do it. Because, you know, this van's going to be with me for hopefully the next 10, 15 years or so. And we're going to do a whole lot of trips. Which, by the way, we're going to post those too. We're going to do some mountain biking, some track, some road, all kinds of cycling trips. Next year is the year of trips, hopefully, 2019. So, van, trips, riding, a little bit about an e-commerce business, running it out of van, if that works or not, we'll find out. All right, stay tuned. Oh, follow Cyclemeister on Instagram. Yeah, that's me.